Most people skip Matthew chapter 1. They think it's just a boring genealogy. But what if I told you this chapter is actually announcing the arrival of a king?
Yeah, it completely, it just reframes the entire New Testament, right?
Yeah.
Like setting up this massive theological claim before you even get to the actual story.
Right, exactly. Well, welcome to the deep dive. Today, our mission is to uncover the hidden majesty of Jesus as King, which is actually encoded right into those opening verses of the New Testament. We're basically looking past those, endless repetitive lists of names to decode the profound theological statements just hiding in plain sight.
Yeah, it's fascinating.
And to do this, we're pulling from a really fantastic stack of sources today. We've got excerpts from the IVP Bible Background Commentary, the Moody Bible Commentary, the Expositor's Bible Commentary, and the Oxford Bible Commentary, among a few others.
So to really grasp why Matthew opens his account with, this highly structured family tree, we first need to understand Matthew's unique assignment, right? Like compared to the other gospel writers.
Right.
Because we so often read the gospels as just four slightly different biographies, but they're actually four distinct, highly intentional theological arguments, and they're targeting completely different ancient audiences.
Okay, let's unpack this. It's like 4 different master painters were hired to capture the exact same historical figure, but one painted him on a throne, one painted him washing feet, one painted him weeping with the poor, and one painted him descending from the clouds.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, that analogy holds up perfectly when you look at the mechanics of each book. Like Mark, for instance, is painting that servant washing feet, right?
Yeah.
The servant of the Lord.
Mm.
And he's writing primarily to a Roman audience. And, Romans, they valued power and action.
Oh, yeah, they didn't care about long-winded philosophies or ancient Jewish pedigrees.
Exactly. Our sources actually point out how Mark uses words like straight away or immediate, literally dozens of times.
Right, he just skips the birth narrative entirely.
Totally. He just throws you straight into the action. Exorcisms, healings, just relentless forward momentum, culminating in Jesus giving his life as a ransom.
And then Luke pivots entirely.
Yeah, he does.
Because Luke is a physician, and he's writing to this Greek mindset that really idealized the perfect man. So he portrays Jesus as the universal savior. Like instead of starting with Abraham, Luke traces the genealogy backward all the way to Adam.
Right. He's basically saying, hey, this isn't just a Jewish story.
Exactly. He's saying this man is intimately connected to the entire human race. And he focuses so heavily on the marginalized, outcasts, the poor women. It creates this incredibly broad, inclusive portrait.
Yeah. And then John takes a totally different route. He pulls us completely out of earthly timelines.
Yeah, straight into the cosmos.
Right. He proclaims Jesus as the eternal Son of God, the Word made flesh. So he starts before creation, dealing in these massive themes like light and dark, life and truth. But, returning to our first painter, Matthew. Matthew is looking squarely at a first-century Jewish audience. So his portrait is of Jesus as the promised king, the long-awaited Messiah.
What's fascinating here is that because he's painting the king, a royal pedigree isn't just like fun trivia.
Yeah, not at all.
It's the absolute legal prerequisite, right? To prove his right to the throne, his audience doesn't just need to see miracles, they need receipts.
Yes. Yes. Legally speaking, you just cannot claim to be the heir to David's throne without the paperwork. I mean, the phrase kingdom of heaven appears over 30 times in his account. Matthew is basically building a grand legal case for a crown.
So that burden of proof explains why he opens with a genealogy.
Right, the ultimate form of ancient credentialing.
But he doesn't just hand over a standard public record. He immediately does something really subversive in the very first sentence.
Yeah, Matthew 1.1.
Right. It reads, the book of the generation of Jesus Christ, the son of David, son of Abraham.
He flips them. He totally flips the founding fathers.
Which is wild. I mean, anyone with a baseline knowledge of biblical history knows Abraham is the patriarch. He's the literal start of the Jewish nation. So bumping him to second place behind David is this massive, deliberate rewrite of the historical order. I mean, isn't it a bit bold to just rewrite the chronological order of your founding fathers in your opening sentence?
Oh, it's definitely an aggressive move, but it's a calculated theological trumpet blast. Matthew is purposely prioritizing the monarch over the patriarch.
Because of the audience's context, right?
Exactly. Think about a Jewish reader in the first century. They're living under Roman occupation. The glory days are long gone. And David represents the absolute zenith of Israel's history, the golden age of the monarchy, independence, divine favor.
So by placing David first, Matthew is basically bypassing centuries of trauma.
Yes, he's declaring right out of the gate that the exile is over, and the true son of David has finally arrived to reclaim the throne.
Wow. But he still keeps Abraham in that opening sentence.
Right, he does.
Which anchors this new king to the older Genesis promise. You know, that covenant with Abraham that said through his offspring, all nations of the earth would be blessed.
That's a crucial point.
So Matthew is signaling that, yes, Jesus is the legal Jewish king, but his kingdom isn't going to be restricted by ethnic borders.
And he masterfully threads that dual identity throughout the whole gospel king of the Jews,
Yeah.
but bringing salvation to the Gentiles.
Yeah.
And he reinforces this royal focus, not just with words, but with the actual mathematical architecture of the genealogy itself.
Oh, the structure is wild.
Yeah, he structures the whole family tree into 3 distinct symmetrical eras of 14 generations.
Right. 14 from Abraham to David, 14 from David to the Babylon exile, and 14 from the exile to Christ.
Here's where it gets really interesting. To achieve that perfect 14-14-14 symmetry, Matthew actually curates the list.
He skips people.
He does. He skips over several historical kings in the middle section, like Ahaziah and Joash.
Okay, let me play devil's advocate here.
Go for it.
If he is deliberately omitting historical figures just to hit a magic number, how does that not completely undermine his credibility? I mean, if I omit data on a modern resume to make a pattern look better, I'd get fired.
Right, exactly.
Is Matthew just playing a manipulative math game here? Or did this serve a real purpose for his readers?
Well, see, that's a very modern Western way of viewing genealogies.
What do you mean?
We tend to view them as literal, exhaustive DNA test results, right? But ancient Near Eastern cultures, they view them as theological maps.
Oh, okay.
So skipping generations, which scholars call telescoping, that was a totally accepted literary convention used to highlight a specific pattern or truth.
So it wasn't seen as deceptive at all.
Not even a little bit. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, Matthew is using the number 14 because of an ancient Jewish practice called gematria.
Oh, right, where numerical values are assigned to Hebrew letters.
Exactly. So in ancient Hebrew, the name David is spelled with 3 consonants, Delet, Vav, Delet, or DVD. The letter Dele has a numerical value of 4, and Vav has a value of 6.
Okay, so 4 plus 6 plus 4.
Equals exactly 14.
Wow. So the number 14 literally spells David.
Yes. The structure itself is screaming his name. It's brilliant.
That is amazing.
And furthermore, in an oral culture where, texts were scarce, grouping a massive list of names into 3 identical sets of 14, it created this brilliant mnemonic device.
Oh, that makes sense. It made it incredibly easy to memorize and recite.
Right. So every time early Christians recited one of those sections, the structure itself was this rhythmic, undeniable reinforcement of the core message. Jesus is the ultimate David.
It's like he's engraving a royal seal over every major epoch of Israel's history. Like, God is sovereign over the rise of the monarchy, sovereign over the devastation of the exile, and sovereign over the return.
Just driving history perfectly toward this king.
Yeah. But, as you read through this mathematically flawless, highly regal structure, something very jarring happens with the actual names inside the boxes.
Oh, definitely.
Because if you were, say, a political PR operative trying to prove your client is the flawless, uncontested king of Israel, you'd polish the family tree, right?
You definitely hide the messy parts.
Yeah. You'd highlight the heroes and quietly bury the skeletons in the closet. But Matthew seems to go out of his way to dig up the skeletons and put them right on display.
He really does. He deliberately weaves some of the most scandalous figures in Israel's history right into the royal tapestry.
The inclusion of the women is probably the most glaring example of this.
Well, absolutely. Because in ancient patriarchal societies, women were rarely included in official genealogies unless there was some sort of vital legal necessity.
Right. Yet Matthew includes 4 women before getting to Mary.
Yeah. Tamar, Rahab, Ruth, and Bathsheba.
Though it's interesting, he pointedly refers to Bathsheba as her that had been the wife of Uriah.
Which is a whole scandal in itself. And the pattern connecting these 4 women is staggering, especially when you consider the strict purity laws of first-century Judaism.
Right, because first of all, they're all Gentiles, or heavily associated with Gentiles.
Exactly. Rahab was a Canaanite from Jericho. Ruth was a Moabite, which is a nation explicitly cursed and barred from the assembly of Israel in Deuteronomy.
Wow.
And Bathsheba was married to a Hittite.
So their inclusion just reinforces that Abrahamic promise, right? That this king's mission is tied to all nations.
Yes, but the scandal goes way deeper than just their ethnicity. Their stories are filled with moral chaos.
Total chaos. I mean, Tamar disguised herself as a roadside prostitute to trick her father-in-law, Judah, into giving her a child.
Right.
And Rahab actually was a professional prostitute operating in a pagan city.
Yeah.
Then Ruth crawled under Boaz's blanket in the middle of the night on a threshing floor to secure a marriage, which is a highly unorthodox and perilous move.
Very risky.
And Bathsheba's story involves this gross abuse of power, adultery, and literally state-sponsored murder by King David himself.
I mean, if you're trying to present a pristine royal bloodline, this is a disastrous PR strategy.
Yeah, that's like a modern royal family intentionally publishing their worst tabloid scandals on their official website.
It really is. It highlights deception, prostitution, forbidden nationalities, murder.
Which just proves that Matthew isn't trying to argue for human perfection here.
No, not at all. If he were, he'd have edited them out, just like he edited out the extra kings to make the math work.
Oh, that's a great point. He chose to put them in.
Exactly. By forcing the reader to confront these specific women, Matthew is making a really profound theological point.
Which is what?
That God's plan of salvation isn't derailed by human sin or scandal. In fact, God intentionally uses the broken, the outsiders, and the outcasts to construct the throne.
It proves that this king's kingdom is built on grace, not human perfection or strict adherence to religious purity laws.
And, it also performs this very subtle protective function for Mary.
How so?
Well, we know the circumstances of Mary's pregnancy were highly controversial. By the time Matthew is writing, rumors about Jesus' illegitimacy were definitely circulating among his critics.
Oh, right. So by front-loading the genealogy with women who had highly unconventional or scandalous entries into the royal line,
Matthew is effectively telling his audience, look, God has always worked through surprising, unconventional pregnancies to advance his kingdom. Don't be shocked that he's doing it again with Mary.
wow, he normalizes the unexpected in God's redemptive history.
Yeah.
But, okay, as chaotic as the moral scandals of the women are, they kind of pale in comparison to this massive structural legal problem lurking later in the genealogy.
The curse. Yes.
Because there is a figure in this bloodline who, according to Jewish law, should legally disqualify Jesus from ever sitting on the throne.
This raises an important question, really. It's one of the most fascinating legal dilemmas in the entire biblical text.
Let's trace the tension here because it's wild. In Matthew 1, verse 11, we hit King Jeconiah. Now, he was one of the last kings of Judah before the Babylonian Empire completely dismantled the nation, and he was spectacularly wicked.
Very bad guy.
Right. And God was so angered by Jeconiah's rebellion that he spoke through the prophet Jeremiah and placed a terrifying bloodline curse on him.
Yeah, Jeremiah 22:30 records God saying, "Write ye this man childless, a man that shall not prosper in his days. For no man of his seed shall prosper, sitting upon the throne of David or ruling any more in Judah."
God essentially took an axe to the royal branch of the family tree right there. He declared that no physical descendant of Jeconiah would ever wear the crown again.
The physical descendants are cursed.
But this creates a massive theological collision because God had previously made an unconditional covenant with David in 2 Samuel, promising that David's throne would be established forever.
Right. It's a divine catch-22.
Exactly.
I mean, how does God keep his promises while enforcing his judgments? God cannot break his unconditional promise to David to provide an eternal king, but he also can't violate his own decree cursing Jeconiah's physical descendants.
Right, because if the Messiah is born physically from the line of Jeconiah, he absorbs the curse and is legally barred from ruling.
But if the Messiah is born outside the royal line of David, he doesn't have the legal right to the throne in the first place.
The tension seems completely unresolvable.
It really does. How can someone possess the legal right to the throne of David without inheriting the biological curse of the kings who sat on it?
This is where we need a modern legal analogy, because what happens next is essentially a masterclass in ancient estate law.
Okay, let's hear it.
Imagine a multi-billion-dollar royal trust fund. The grandfather who set it up put an ironclad clause in the paperwork. The biological son of the current disgraced CEO is completely barred from ever inheriting a single cent or holding the title.
So the biological line is severed.
Exactly.
Ah.
However, if that disgraced CEO legally adopts a son, that adopted child inherits the full legal title, the name, and the rights of the estate. But because they do not share the biological DNA, they are completely exempt from the biological clause in the grandfather's curse.
Wow. That maps perfectly onto the virgin birth.
Right.
Because when we look at Matthew's genealogy, he's giving us the lineage of Joseph, the husband of Mary.
Right.
And Joseph is a direct biological descendant of King David through King Solomon, straight down through that cursed King Jeconiah.
So Joseph carries the legal right to the throne, but he also carries the curse.
Correct. But because of the virgin birth, Jesus is not the physical seed of Joseph. He's conceived by the Holy Spirit.
Oh, this is so good.
Yeah. And by taking Mary as his wife and claiming Jesus as his son, Joseph legally adopts him. He passes on the full, uncontested legal right to the throne of David to his adopted son.
So Jesus becomes the legal heir of the royal estate. He inherits the crown, but totally dodges the bloodline curse.
It is an absolute masterstroke of divine engineering.
I mean, the virgin birth isn't just a magnificent miracle of biology. It's a meticulously crafted legal loophole designed from the foundations of the world to fulfill both the ancient promise to David and the devastating curse on Jeconiah.
And the brilliance of this becomes even more apparent when you layer Luke's genealogy over Matthew's.
Oh, because Luke traces it differently.
Yeah, right. We mentioned earlier that Luke traces his lineage backwards. Well, many scholars argue that while Matthew tracks the legal line through Joseph to establish kingship, Luke is actually tracking the biological line through Mary to establish Jesus' humanity.
And Mary is also a direct descendant of King David.
Yes, but not through Solomon and that cursed line of kings. Her lineage traces back through a completely different son of David named Nathan.
So she possesses the biological blood of David, completely bypassing Jeconiah.
Exactly. So Jesus receives the physical biological blood of King David from his mother, which fulfills the promise that the Messiah would be the seed of David.
Wow.
And he receives the legal royal right to the throne from his earthly father Joseph without inheriting the curse.
That is just incredible. Matthew is basically laying down an insurmountable challenge to the religious leaders of his day.
He really is.
He's presenting a pedigree that proves mathematically, historically, biologically, and legally that Jesus of Nazareth is the only human being in history who could possibly qualify as the Messiah.
And honestly, the royal line effectively ends with him because the temple and the genealogical records were destroyed in 70 AD.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so no one else can ever prove a claim to the throne after that.
When you step back and look at the sheer complexity of what Matthew has constructed in just a few short verses, it is breathtaking.
It really is a masterpiece.
I mean, he weaves together the trauma of the exile, the scandal of outcasts, the mathematical precision of gematria, and the legal navigation of ancient curses, all to set the stage for a king who brings grace rather than mere law.
Yeah.
So what does this all mean? What does it mean for you listening right now?
Well, it means that when you open a historical text and you encounter a wall of ancient, difficult-to-pronounce names, you're not looking at a dusty, irrelevant ledger.
Not at all.
You're looking at a carefully crafted, majestic announcement of sovereignty. You are seeing how God utilizes broken people, catastrophic national failures, and divine loopholes to perfectly execute a plan of salvation.
There is always a deeper layer of meaning operating beneath the surface of seemingly dry historical records.
And I think it leaves us with something really important to mull over.
What's that?
It forces a profound reflection on the nature of divine sovereignty. Think about it. If God went to such astonishing lengths, bending chronological hierarchies, orchestrating mathematical poetry, navigating the impossible legal knot of an ancient curse, and deliberately elevating societal outcasts, just to announce the arrival of this king in a written record, consider what that means for our understanding of true power and divine planning in our own messy lives.
That is such a good point.
We so often look at human history, or even just our own day-to-day chaos, and we see nothing but brokenness. But this genealogy proves that God is perfectly capable of orchestrating centuries of chaotic human failure to bring about his exact perfect purposes.
If he can navigate the disastrous reigns of ancient kings to bring forth a savior, he can certainly navigate the complexities of our current world. That is an incredible thought to carry with us. History is not an accident, and grace is not an afterthought. The king has indeed come, and his arrival was announced with all the majesty, subversion, and precision worthy of the throne. Are you ready to receive your king?